Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron.
You done messed up, Aaron.
Aaron is here. I'm not even ready. My shirt's all the way buttoned up like a total moron. Anyway, welcome back, everybody, for more SPTV, where every day is a great day not to be in a cult, and every day is a bad day to be Grant Cardone and Gary Cardone, two high-level Scientologists, two of the top recruiters for Scientology, two of the top financial supporters of Scientology. And I'm joined today by my good friend Jeffrey Augustine. How you doing, Jeff? Can you hear me? Jeff?
Yes, I can. Did we had a screen freeze?
Okay, we had a screen freeze. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right, look, let's jump right into this. Let's take a look. This is Jeff's blog, The Scientology Money Project. And he has some breaking news about Grant Cardone's identical twin brother, Gary. It's shocking how many people don't know that Grant Cardone has an identical twin brother, Gary. But they're pretty much joined at the hip business-wise. Gary's money was actually the seed money for Cardone Capital. Gary's company, Chargebacks 911, exists in part to allow, allegedly, Cardone Enterprises and Cardone Ventures to get away with fraud on a massive scale. And the FTC and other feds are way up Gary Cardone's butt. And there's a new civil RICO class action lawsuit filed against Scientologists Gary Cardone and Monica Cardone, now Monica Eaton, because they recently got divorced, for their company Chargebacks 911. Guys, that is what Gary Cardone looks like these days. I didn't even recognize him. I said that could not possibly be Gary Cardone. That is. The stress seems to be taking its toll. OT8 Gary Cardone, clearly his unhandled evil purposes to defraud consumers is weighing greatly upon his conscience and showing through upon his face. Where did you get that photo, Jeff?
Well, I got off Gary has a website, and so I got it off the website, and I used a. By the way, I want to say a shout out to you, Aaron, and to all Scientology crime watchers. I also want to say, Aaron, crime and Scientology go together like Xenu and BTs. They are just inseparable. We get done with one criminal case, we move on to the next. So Gary Cardone and his ex-wife Monica Eaton, their company Chargebacks 911, have been hit with a civil RICO lawsuit. And this is a big one because it alleges civil RICO. If you scroll down on this, okay, now we're going to cover later the previous one, but this is Janet Seiler and Charlene Babenkoff and all others similarly situated. So this is a first amended class action lawsuit. It just came out. And what's interesting about this case, you can look it up on Pacer. It's there for everyone to see. If you will scroll down, what hit me like a ton of bricks reading it. First of all, we go to jurisdiction and venue. We go below that to the highlighted portion in yellow. Now read that.
This court also has jurisdiction because plaintiffs' Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act claim arises under federal law.
Yeah, and 18 USC. So civil RICO or racketeering is a big deal. And it puts quite a burden on the plaintiffs to carry it, but their firm suing feels that they have it. And my prediction, what I predicted before in the previous case, which we'll cover against Monica and Gary, I think it's going to go criminal. My prediction is that sooner than later, Gary Cardone and Monica Eaton will be criminally charged because this thing has gotten out of hand. In the previous thing we'll go back and discuss, it's over assisting scammers online for $233 million. And it's and the Cardones know about this. So if you go back to the case you look at something now, read part 7. This is what they can prove, I believe.
Okay, nature of the action. This action involves a form of fraud and cybercrime that has become increasingly common and lucrative across the internet. This particular scam, the keto racket, was designed to lure consumers into purchasing worthless weight loss pills branded Ultra Fast Keto Boost and Instant Keto,
Yeah,
collectively the keto products.
and they used fake celebrity endorsements, misrepresentations. So this is a typical thing. You buy a keto weight loss supplement for $4.99. Suddenly every month you're getting shipped several bottles for $96. You file with your credit card company and chargebacks 911, and Monica and Gary send in fake screenshots showing that you in fact looked at it, and these screenshots are not real. This is a 121-page lawsuit. It's detail rich.
I have to jump in with something, and you ask, and I'm going to ask you if these dots connect in any way. We have already seen in previous videos that I've done reports that Scientologist Dr. Eric Berg, YouTube's keto king, Dr. Eric Berg and his wife were in business with Gary and Monica, and they had some sort of a clash. They had some sort of a falling out. They were reporting each other. They were reporting each other to the Scientology authorities. Does this lawsuit, I mean, this is all about the keto products. I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with Dr. Eric Berg, does it?
I don't know, but I'll look. I'll investigate it. I'll look into it, because there's like the LDS, Latter-day Saints. They have their Balance of Nature product, which is just as an aside, one of the FLDS sister wives works for them.
Wait. I thought the Balance of Nature company was also run by Scientologists.
It's LDS Mormons, but it does use LRH technology. They have an org board.
The guy who owns that company is not a Scientologist?
Well, I saw a picture of he and his family at the temple in Salt Lake City. So I cannot definitively say. He might be a hybrid like Nation of Islam or Scientologists. There might be a hybrid of Latter-day Saints who have become Scientologists, because this is something we're jumping ahead, but I'm doing research because his daughter, on a blog she took down, but I archived, I can show you where she went to the Hubbard College of Business Administration here in LA.
Oh, we're going to have to do another video on that, because I saw that Balance of Nature just got fined like $1.5 million last week. Did you know? I saw a report about that.
Yeah. And bro, the Zion's Bank, ZIONS, is basically owned by Latter-day Saints members and effectively controlled by the LDS Church.
Wow.
Scientology banks at Zion's Bank. There was a payoff. So just jumping ahead, the ties between Latter-day Saints, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Church of Scientology are phenomenal and striking. In fact, the LDS's construction of their intellectual property looks a lot like Religious Technology Center. And you can go across. That'll be a future video, the connections, because I'm starting to see more and more of the tech creeping into LDS.
Wow.
And wouldn't that be a fusion? And here's what's interesting. Can I just go far afield, since we're eclectic on your show?
Yeah.
Here's the thing I write about in my unpublished manuscript, which someday I'll do something with it. But okay.
No. I'm only putting up things that don't require us to respond right now.
Okay. So here's what's interesting. Latter-day Saints, they want to increase their celestial kingdoms by bringing in as many members as possible, baptizing for the dead.
Okay.
And whereas Scientology wants to get rid of all the BTs. So the ideal thing would be a trade where when you got your BTs to blow, the LDS could baptize them into their celestial kingdom. That would be a win-win. That's why I'm metaphysical. I'm a big picture guy. I'm a big picture guy, and I could see that happening.
I could just see Miscavige sitting down for that negotiation.
Is that mind-blowing?
They're like, listen up.
Okay, you're going to have to light pay us.
We've got hundreds of OT7s clearing thousands of BTs a day. You can have them. You can have them if we can just get $100 billion line of credit from Zion Bank. You can have all the BTs you want.
Believe give you their names and how many lifetimes they live in. You can baptize them. So anyway, that's just how this thing gets. Now, the org board would seem to fit into LDS, but let's get back to our two perps, Gary and Monica, and their lawsuit.
Okay.
What's one thing the lawsuit says, this new civil RICO lawsuit, it said that Gary and Monica came to the attention in another civil RICO that the two plaintiffs filed in California. So it came to their attention. So we don't know how deep down the rabbit hole Gary and Monica are, but it seems like whenever there's a scam to be had online selling a free trial of anything, and you're going to need representments and you're going to need to dilute. In this keto scam, for example, we mentioned how you have to run credit cards if you're on, in business online, and you have to keep your chargebacks below 1%. And in order to keep that below 1%, Gary and Monica and Chargeback 911 would do dilutions. Well, in this case, these keto scammers were selling a 99-cent keto book on keto diet. And they were selling, I don't know, 200,000 of these or something. But the lawsuit's interesting to read. It's on my blog. And because it shows that it alleges that Gary and Monica had very specific knowledge of the fraud. What happened in the prior lawsuit with the Federal Trade Commission and the U.S. Federal Trade Commission in the state of Florida are suing Gary and Monica, and they want to put them out of business. They want a permanent injunction to put them out of business. They want monetary damages. Gary and Monica answered that saying, we're just like clerks. We don't know anything about this. That you just send us, the credit card companies, or I'm sorry, our clients just send us information and we just send it on to the banks. We're just like a clerical service, that doesn't make sense, because if it were as easy as just sending on screenshots or representments, you would just do that in-house. You wouldn't pay them all that money to do it. It's easy. It would be a lot cheaper to do it in-house. But they actually detail a meeting that Gary had with one of the scammers in Las Vegas, and they're talking about how they can bring this under 1%, how they can keep the chargebacks down. Yeah. So there's actual meetings. It gives me a feeling that there was some, because the Federal Trade Commission has a criminal division. A lot of people don't know that. They have a criminal division. And we mentioned in a previous video a fellow named Gopal Krishna Pai, who's facing $98 million in forfeiture and 40 months in prison. I remember. Which is another strange thing. That goes back into 2015, 2016, 2017. So it makes me wonder, as a private investigator, if there were not surveillance, wiretaps, undercover work being conducted on Gary Cardone, Monica Cardone Eaton, and Chargeback 911 at the time, because they do mention the Las Vegas meeting. They have emails. They've got a lot of evidence. So this is why I think they're following the same trajectory as David Gentili of GPB Capital. I think this is going to get a whole lot worse.
Wow. Now, I mean, so this next question is just, out of my pure ignorance. I did not know. I mean, I'm familiar with the concept of RICO. I'm familiar with the federal government using RICO to go after, people that things that are hard to prosecute, like organized crime and stuff like that. I did not know you could bring a civil RICO lawsuit.
You can. Now, I'm not a lawyer. You have to bring on Zach on. But yeah, you can bring a civil RICO lawsuit. You can allege civil racketeering. And this means that the Gary and Monica, OTHs, the most ethical beings on the planet, were acting in a fashion with others. So there was a conspiracy to defraud, a conspiracy to violate Title 18. And so it's very specific, and it is civil in nature, but generally civil RICO can go into criminal charges. And the threshold would be very interesting to ask Zach for his opinion. I would have to defer to a lawyer. I'm a private investigator. So my job would be to develop information and give to lawyers. And if they saw something criminal in it, they would give it to the feds. So that's kind of how the food chain works.
Yeah. So when you say you expect the civil action to potentially go criminal, you're not just talking about this civil RICO lawsuit. You're talking about the FTC's action against Monica and Gary directly,
Yeah,
right?
and let's bring the context of why this new civil RICO. Let's look at the first original case we covered.
Do you want me to bring up that deck?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Bring up
let's do this.
bring up the deck. We have to show our viewers. You go to slide 1.
Here, I'll tell you what. For this, I'm going to take us off.
Yeah, let's take us.
Screen.
People know what we look like. Okay, so if you go to the slide number 1, now this is my pitch for maybe a Netflix show, Keeping Up with the Cardones, and that would cover Grant and Elena and Gary and his ex-wife Monica Eden. So Keeping Up with the Cardones. In this episode, they're sued by the U.S. Federal Trade Commission and the state of Florida. So slide number 2, please.
All righty.
Now look at this. Look at this. This is the real thing. This happened prior to the civil RICO. So Global E-Trading LLC is being sued by the United States Federal Trade Commission, which does have a criminal division opposite the Attorney General. In fact, in the 2022 report from the FDA's criminal division, they cite one of the people mentioned in this lawsuit. But when you get that complaint for permanent injunction, the federal government and the state of Florida want to shut down Monica and Gary and their company, and they want monetary relief and statutory relief. And that could be a lot of money. And so if you go to go down to the next slide. Let me get that up here so we can both be on the same page.
It says FTC Florida Attorney General sue Chargebacks 911 for thwarting consumers who are trying to reverse disputed credit card charges.
Yeah, and that's the Federal Trade Commission release. That's the U.S. government actually put out a release. This is how bad it is. Now you go to slide 4. This is how the scam works. You, as the consumer, go on and you see Adelina skin cream offered at $4.99, and you think, oh, now part of it is only 5 others are viewing this offer, limited quantities, so you pay $4.99 plus shipping and handling. But then what happens is your card gets billed for $90, and this is in the FTC Florida lawsuit. You file a credit card dispute, and if you go to the next slide, here's where the violation of law occurs, the alleged violation. You get Chargebacks 911 will send your credit card company a different screenshot. And this is actually taken from the FTC Florida lawsuit.
Oh, I got it. These images are directly from the FTC lawsuit against Monica and Gary.
They are screenshots. They're saying, no, here's the box the consumer saw, and you can see all the terms and conditions. But on the previous thing, you never saw this. In fact, this is Ketterland skin cream where you were buying Adelina. So that's how lazy and sloppy they got, is they were bringing in money. They got that lazy and sloppy, and they're working out. They have a center in India they were using. And they were paying the manager of the Indian center, who they're suing, $312.50 a week. So better than Sea Org wages, but not much.
So in other words, Gary Cardone's business seems to exist almost for the sole purpose of helping companies that are committing fraud on a major scale continue committing fraud for as long as possible.
That's a correct statement, in my opinion. Yes, scammers are going to scam, and they need the help of Chargebacks 911. Look, the evidence is there. You can read it. When a jury sees this, it's not going to be good, especially when you see just the fake screenshots. So that's why the evidence. Now, if you go to slide 6, I want to show you the scope and scale of what they did in the FTC Florida case. Okay, look at there.
I got to figure out where to stick our fat faces here. Here we go. Let's see that.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so in the Florida FTC lawsuit, they cite the case of 3 major clients. They Chargebacks 911, it's alleged, aided and abetted 3 major clients to defraud consumers of $233 million. So this is a big fraud. This is $250 million. And Chargebacks 911, they were very busy. They filed 165,000 representments, many of which used fake screenshots on behalf of their scammer clients. And it gets worse because if you go down on the slide deck, can you go to slide 10?
Sure.
Now, this is an example of one of their clients. This is AH Media Group. So what these scammers do is they have all these different companies, some in the UK, some in Wyoming, which is a tax haven. It's becoming one of the dirtiest. If you're a dirty company, you're going to set up in Wyoming because you have anonymity. So all you do is you have different websites for each of these companies selling your same skincare product. And if you hit near 1% chargebacks, you just switch. So if you're selling from Alpha Group, you just switch to Crest Capital, or you go, and you just switch around. And then Chargebacks 911 does all these micro buys, all these micro purchases for you. And so they can keep it way under 1%, and they keep your credit card privileges safe, because if you go above 1%, the credit card company, Visa, Amex, Discover, cuts you off and you're out of business. So wow. This is how big, this is how many, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fake companies. And for Chargebacks 911 to act like they don't know, no, you would have to know the names of all these companies. You would have to know what's going on. In fact, to quote Steely Dan, they know how the pros play the game. And Gary and Monica are pros at this. Wow. And this is look, I got this out of the lawsuit from the Federal Trade Commission, state of Florida. This is the actual stuff. Now, if you go to slide 13.
Okay.
This is Gopal Krishna Pai's.
Gopal Krishna Pai.
Yes. He has 116 fake companies.
Jeez Louise.
Chargebacks 911 was aware of all these different companies. They all have different EINs or business numbers.
Yeah.
Different websites. That's why the feds are seeking $98 million in forfeiture from Mr. Pai.
Wow.
But here's what's mind-blowing. I'm on Pacer, and he's apparently made a plea deal for 40 months, which is really low. And for almost a year now, when I go to Pacer, I'm not allowed to look at documents. They're sealed. Oh. I think, just my opinion, is that Mr. Pai is cooperating with the feds because they put his sentencing off. He's as dirty as sin. He pled.
So you think he's cooperating against Gary? Well,
there's $98 million fraud. He got a 40-month sentence. I mean, this is where I'd love to have Captain Tommy Scoville on. He did one count of wire fraud, which can get you 240 months in federal prison, but yet they gave him like 24 points.
Wow.
Over in the GPB. Yeah, I think he could be.
Didn't Gary Cardone pull an L. Ron Hubbard by once the feds came in and started taking action, he stepped down and put his wife in charge of the company?
What? You mean throwing your wife under the bus?
Yeah, didn't he follow the L. Ron Hubbard playbook on that?
It sure seems like it. I mean, I said before, I'll say it again, the most dangerous job in the Church of Scientology is being the wife of the leader. But maybe there's a secret policy for Scientology men. When in danger, throw your 2D under the bus.
There you
go. It sure seems like it, doesn't it, Aaron? Like she takes over the company just as all this hits. Yeah. And then carries off claiming to be doing something else. Yeah, I think he's following the L. Ron Hubbard playbook. You know,
Monica divorced him, and he's like, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you the company. Bye."
Yeah, you're all sign over the house and the company.
Oh,
I'm gonna go do some consulting in Dubai, or whatever he's doing.
Is there anything more on your blog post that we wanted to hit on, or did we already get that?
Well, if you want to go to that other story real quick on GPB Capital, just to update listeners on the GPB Capital saga. Do you want to do that or another?
Yeah, no, let's do it. I'll pull up your blog post again.
It's on.
Here, your
Okay,
blog.
so it is the other
It's
blog
fine.
post.
Yep. I just got to go page
Okay,
back.
yeah.
Okay, so guys, the Cardones aren't the only fake Scientology billionaires who are being indicted and charged by the feds with stuff. There's another dude called David Gentili.
Yeah, and well, the first news on David Gentili is he was fighting to take control of his company. A court-appointed monitor was holding it. So this week, Judge Vera Scanlon, the magistrate judge, Eastern District, New York, recommended that GBP Capital be placed into receivership.
Okay.
So that's going to, and then they'll take the $1 billion plus cash and distribute it to, but that's not the, distribute it back to investors, but that's not the real story.
Okay.
If you can go to the GPB Capital, if you can go back.
Oh, go back where?
Oh, to the main site. The story is GPB Capital, Jeff Lash allocutes. Scroll down, please. Look at how this is like air traffic control for me some days, Aaron, trying to keep track of all the crimes in the sky. It'll say
even further down. Just tell me to keep going.
There's right there. Stop.
Oh,
Jeff Lash allocutes. Okay, now what happens is there were three people criminally charged in the GPB Capital, and that was Scientologist David Gentili and Jeffrey Schneider of Austin, Texas, and Jeff Lash was the third guy. He's a Florida resident. And now what happens in this type of case, he entered a guilty plea to he pled guilty to 1 count of wire fraud.
Who's he?
Jeff Lash.
Okay.
He worked for David Gentili. Now what's happened, he allocated. And what allocution means is you go before the court accepts your guilty plea, you go and make a formal statement, and the judge, she will read off what it means to enter a guilty plea. You're giving up your right to self-incrimination. You can't go back on it. And it's a plea deal. It's very formal. But what Jeff Lash did is make a statement, and I want you to get in character as him. And if you go back to the blog, and scroll down and just read it. You act like you're Jeff Lash. This is what he said in court. So, okay, now scroll down. Now I'm the court. I said, go ahead, Mr. Lash. Just read from there.
Mr. Lash. Okay.
Yeah.
On April 28th, 2016, I, along with David Gentili, initiated.
No, do a Trump.
No.
You have to do that. Okay.
No. People are going to get pissed off. Okay. I, along with David Gentili, total loser. Okay, initiated an interstate wire payment of approximately $1,050,000 from my personal Chase bank account to the Gentili Prime Brokerage Automotive Portfolio Chase bank account. I knew that the money would be booked and falsely be represented as revenue in the financial statements of the automotive portfolio. I was aware at the time that such funds were not revenue and would be provided to investors and prospective investors to induce them into investing money in the automotive portfolio. Some of the investors and prospective investors were located in the Eastern District of New York. I knew at the time what I did was wrong.
And you can stop there. So what Jeff Lash did is he directly implicates David Gentili in wire fraud. Wow. And he's going to testify to that at court. And look, Jeff Lash's attorney said there is no legal defense against this. Because, Aaron, there's a bank transfer from a personal account to a business account. There's a financial statement representing it as revenue. This is straight out wire. It's interstate wire fraud. Carries a maximum. 1 count alone carries a maximum of 240 months or 20 years in prison.
Wow.
So David Gentili is not getting out of this charge. He's facing 4 felonies, a lot of charges. Now, Jeff Lash agreed to take a sentence of between 151 to 188 months. So that's about 13 and a half to 15 and a half years.
Yeah.
And he forfeited $3.5 million.
Wow.
So he's going to testify. He flipped. So Scientologist David, go ahead.
There's so many Scientologists going to prison. I mean, they're going to have to create a special wing just to, house all of the Scientology felons and sex offenders, it's getting a little crazy.
Yeah, you know what? But what I'm interested, Scientology runs Criminon for, and all these Scientology felons, like the Spina brothers, and we can go down the list, soon to be David Gentile, he will wind up in prison. There's no doubt about that. But they haven't asked to do Sunday services, Scientology Sunday services in prison.
That's true.
Now, they're a religion. Why aren't they doing Scientology in prison?
It's
Aaron,
true.
you could answer that question.
Well, because Scientologists don't really even believe in their own Sunday service. It's just for show for the IRS.
True, but they wouldn't do it in prison because please correct me if I'm wrong. Help me out here. Because you grew up in a cult, so you know this better than I do. Once you're convicted of a felony, aren't you declared a suppressive person?
No, not really. That's the
You're
thing.
not?
You're declared you're declared PTS type B, which is criminal, but you're not automatically declared a suppressive person.
So could they do auditing in prison?
The thing is, technically, auditing requires physical contact, or at least the potential to have physical contact. So I think for that reason, you may not. Scientology, I don't think, would ever voluntarily send an auditor to a prison, like not a professional auditor, but.
Well, there's one exception. Remember Old Guardian's office member Artie Marin?
Yeah.
He was held in contempt of court, and the court ordered him into prison. This is like 1970s.
Okay.
So my lovely wife, Karen de la Carriere, who's in a class 12 CS, went and ministered to Artie Marin in prison. Now, I don't know if she was allowed to bring in the e-meter. That might be contraband.
That was more for show, right? Because he was sort of being a martyr, right? Like he was imprisoned. Was Artie at the time a Sea Org member, or was he just like a high-level public volunteer?
He was a member of the Guardian's office. Okay. Wouldn't answer questions. So he was an old Geo Crim.
So he went to prison just for contempt for refusing to answer questions.
Yeah, he wouldn't answer questions. So Karen ministered to him in
goes
prison.
And puts on this whole show of sending a minister in to, to provide pastoral religious counseling. I mean, that was theater. That was pure theater.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the answer may be that Charles Manson did some jailhouse auditing. So Dianetics auditing doesn't require a meter. But I'm just wondering.
That was different, though, right?
How was it different?
They didn't send an auditor in to audit Charles Manson. There happened to be a dude in the prison who was already a trained Scientology auditor and was just auditing people.
This gets interesting because if Scientology is your religion in prison, there's no special dietary restrictions. They have to start selling CalMag in the canteen. Inquiring minds want to know how this shakes out. But no, seriously, getting back to Gary Cardone, Grant Cardone's twin brother, and his ex-wife Monica are in a whole lot of trouble. And like I said, it's going to get worse. I think
total losers.
And then, so what is Grant Cardone? Let's just hypothetically say Gary and Monica are criminally charged. They're indicted.
Yeah.
How does Grant Cardone spend that in social media? Or does he suddenly pretend that he doesn't have a twin brother?
If Grant Cardone's identical Scientologist OT8 twin brother gets indicted by the feds, I think Cardone is going down not that far behind him. And I think Grant pretends like it's not even happening. I don't think he addresses it because it's like a lose-lose. There's no good way to address that.
We've got to do an over-under betting pool on this unofficially, with SBTV merchandise as prizes. But you could be very well correct. You could be correct. This whole thing could be going down because there's a lot of interlinks.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into it there, but this is very interesting how the Cardone brothers operate. And Grant has said he wanted to start a bank. That was his big thing. But he yanked down that video.
Did he really? Yeah.
Yeah. And
Cardone complains that hedge funds won't even pay him the time, give him the time of day, but he thinks the feds are going to give him a banking license. It's like, get a life.
Yeah, it's just wild. So that's the latest in Scientology Crime Watch at the top. Two
Yeah.
big cases. So they've got some big lawsuits. They're going to have a lot of legal expenses.
Yeah.
They're going to lose business because of, who's going to do business with them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Here,
you
there's a
go-
few comments.
Yeah.
Comments in the pipeline here. William Peterson, very interesting situation. LDS Church has zero tolerance for practicing other religions. I wonder what all of those mental gymnastics look like. Yeah, I got to tell you, Jeff, I'm convinced that the Balance of Nature folks are actually Scientologists who came from Mormonism and are pretending to still be Mormon, kind of like Reverend Alfredi Johnson pretends to still be a
Sure,
Baptist.
yeah.
I'm gonna try to dig into that this week and do a video about the Balance of Nature folks, because that's just fascinating.
Well, that's something I'd like to get involved with you, because I do have some information and some saved screenshots. Now, it's true that you're not allowed to practice other religions within LDS. That's true of any church. Part of the IRS's definition of a church is you have your own distinctive form of worship. However, in real life, the rules get bent all the time. I mean, when I make, I mentioned often I grew up in Pentecostalism, but I knew some of the ladies in my church used to go to the spiritualist in town to get their fortunes told.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that was one of the dirty little secrets. Yeah. Tarot cards. Pastor's
straight
coming
to
over.
hell.
Pastor and his wife are coming over for dinner. Hide the tarot cards.
Oh boy.
So all kinds of things that go on in the real world are not according to doctrine, are they?
Yeah.
And you have some Scientologists saying that they're Christians when there's no God in Scientology. So yeah, William Peterson, you make a great point. I don't know what the mental gymnastics look like either.
Andrew Hogg. Andrew has told me how to pronounce his last name in the past, and I apologize, Andrew. I forget. So, and if it was Andrew Hagg, he wouldn't have to tell anyone, because that's how every American would say it. So I'm going to say Andrew Hogg. Just so you know, I'm getting ads for Grant Cardone on SPTV videos now. Not sure if you're being targeted. No. Andrew, you're the one being targeted. Because the algorithm is saying that because you watch videos of mine that has Grant Cardone's name in it, the algorithm believes that you're interested in Grant Cardone content, and that's what Grant Cardone targets his ads to, is people. So anyway, you're the one being targeted. Grant Cardone is literally paying me to expose his crimes. So
that's so fabulous. Grant is paying SPTV. Well done, Grant. I hope you don't get an ethics cycle out of this.
Grant should be declared just for funding SPs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. Care for JC YouTube, YT. We had Scientology visit the prison in CDCR. It's considered a valid religion to CDCR. So is that the California Department of Corrections something or other?
I believe so. I don't know all the prison acronyms, but so if it's recognized as a valid religion, then they can have their way to happiness meetings in prison.
Which makes you wonder why they don't. Makes you wonder why they don't. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there was something. Someone posted something recently about how Criminon is piss poor broke and has to be self-funded by whoever is unlucky enough to get stuck without assignment.
Yeah.
Now, you know what? Conversely, the Nation of Islam has a major presence in California prisons. They're very respectable.
Right.
So they may have to link up inside.
You know, it's amazing. I've been getting a lot of emails for the last couple of weeks over it. There's one particular Criminon chapter that's literally being evicted from the premises. This is how little Scientology actually cares about Criminon. And it goes to show you that even though Criminon is technically one of the umbrella groups of Scientology, they don't spend $1 on it. They don't spend $1 on it. It's only for PR. In fact, the only people in Scientology who grade the extension courses of the prisoners who do the Criminon program are Scientologists who are in trouble and have to make amends, and they volunteer to grade these things because nobody cares about them. It's got nothing to do with Scientology. Like the last thing Scientology cares about is people in prison. And so there's the whole, like the West US Criminon office. I got to double check the facts, are literally being evicted. Like they can't even pay their rent. It's amazing. All right. Lisa Marchbanks says, Aaron, your Trump impression makes me smile from ear to ear. Do it again. Total losers. No, that's not a good one. I leaned into it too heavily.
I like it.
Jack Mayhoff says, I love how your reflex go to narrator. I love how your reflex go to narrator is Trump. Yes. It's not even intentional. It just comes
I
out
know,
that
but
way.
just
William Peterson says LDS treat Ouija boards like they are going to welcome a demon into their home. It would be especially entertaining. Mental gymnastics.
oh yeah, let me jump in here. As Pentecostal, yeah, the Ouija board is viewed as a gateway to demonic possession. Did you know that?
I did not know
In
that. I've never actually
Christianity, it's like
seen a real Ouija board.
the Ouija board is the gateway to Satan getting into your soul and taking you over. And so I've seen at camp meetings up in the mountains, they would burn a Ouija board. And there was a famous fake book in the 70s called The Satan Seller. A guy named Mike Warnke was a complete and total fraud, but everyone warns you about the Ouija board because when you put your hands on the planchette, Satan himself and his demons are guiding you down a dark path. So, yeah.
I mean, it really makes me wonder what Mormons actually think of Scientology and the OT3 story and the body thetans, because in a religious sense, it is demonic possession.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you could look at it that way, and that'd be an interesting show. And here's what I've said. In Christianity, I've written this before. In Christianity, demons are, if you look at time and intensity, in Christianity, Catholicism, demons are big. They're big, intense demons, right? And so they're very intense, but you get rid of them in a fairly short time. Scientology's BTs or micro demons, they have low intensity. Even Hubbard said the BTs are low powered, but they take a long time, 10 or 20 or 30 years to run out your whole OT7 BT case, right? So they're much lower intensity, but of much longer duration.
I think that's my new favorite word.
What's that?
Micro demons.
Well, they are micro demons. Hubbard said they're not high powered. So, but
that's kind of like David Miscavige is kind of like a micro demon.
He's definitely a tiny little BT. He might even be a BT who took over a little tiny body because that's all the power he could handle was a little tiny, tiny body. He couldn't possess, a big.
Yeah. So check this out. Emily D. Baker is a huge law tuber, and she did mention yesterday, I've gotten so many messages about this, that she is going to be covering Leah Remini's case on her channel. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. That's going to be fantastic. So much fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've covered a bunch of ground here. Let's do a follow-up video on this shortly. I mean, anything that happens either with the FTC case against the Cardones or this new civil RICO lawsuit against the Cardones, and then
when Monica and Gary file their answer to the civil RICO, we can cover that and to see what kind of excuses they're going to use. Like, we're just clerks. And that's the kind of answer like David Miscavige says, I don't run the church. I'm just in charge of a small department called RTC where we are on the lookout for malicious semicolons.
That's right.
That's all we do.
We're just here for the micro demons. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Jeff. This has been great. And I can't wait to do more on this subject. And also more on David Gentili, of course, anytime you've got an update on your blog, hit me up. We'll do it. We'll do a video.
I will call you. And always
all right, guys.
To talking to you.
Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone who watches until the very end. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.